Yet another significant severe weather outbreak is forecast over some of the same areas that were just impacted by the significant severe weather just days ago, and this one could bring strong tornadoes, very large hail, and even hurricane force wind gusts to numerous areas across the Great Plains into the Midwest, mainly across Illinois into northwestern Indiana and also across portions of central Texas. In this weather forecast, I will discuss what the official forecast from the Storm Prediction Center, the Weather Prediction Center, and even more agencies are, and what some of the weather models are showing for this event. Anyways, let's get straight into this weather forecast. First of all, looking at the Storm Prediction Center outlook for tomorrow, there's an enhanced risk of severe weather across northwestern Indiana into northern Illinois into extreme southeastern Iowa and northeastern Missouri, and also across mainly central Texas there. Looking at our tornado probabilities, you can see we have a 10% tornado risk, mainly across northern Illinois, although that extends into a portion of northwestern Indiana, and our 5% tornado risk extends from extreme southeastern Iowa, northern Missouri, more of northern and central Illinois into northern Indiana there, and we have another 5% tornado risk, across mainly central Texas into a sliver of south central Oklahoma. And you can see our SIG 1 areas for strong to intense tornadoes from the Kansas City area all the way into southern Michigan, northwestern Ohio, and then the other one is mainly across northern and central Texas into southeastern Oklahoma there. Looking at our wind probabilities, you can see mainly just some scattered damaging wind gusts, although across central Texas we do have that 30% area, and we have a SIG 1 area for potentially some hurricane force wind gusts across south central Oklahoma into central Texas there. And our primary risk will be very large hail, where we have a 30% hail risk area across northeastern Missouri into northern Illinois into northern Indiana there. And we have another 30% hail risk across central Texas there. We have a very broad 15% hail risk across much of the Midwest into the Great Plains, and we have SIG 1 areas from central into northern Texas, southwestern Arkansas into south central and southeastern Oklahoma, and from eastern Kansas all the way into northern Indiana and southwestern Michigan. Looking at our day 3 outlook, we have a slight risk of severe weather from northeastern Texas, northern Louisiana, much of Mississippi there, all the way up into western Pennsylvania, much of Ohio, and much of West Virginia there. Looking at a probabilistic outlook, we actually have a 15% severe weather risk there. And if we go down here, they were actually talking about potentially introducing higher risk probabilities actually right here. But they are monitoring it for a more robust severe weather threat, but right now they are sticking with that 15% area there. Next, looking at what some of the other models for severe weather forecasting will happen, you can see we have CIPS here. You can see generate 2% tornado risk, 15% hail risk, 5% damaging wind risk. This is very much under forecasting it. You can see this is CSU right here. You can see that 10% tornado risk, that 30%, even a little bit of that 45% hail risk, and also that 30% damaging wind risk there. And I believe they did have a 15% tornado risk across portions of northeastern Missouri into western Illinois there over 12Z1, and this is the official SPC forecast. You can see we have the 10% tornado risk up there, 5% tornado risk down there. There's your 30% hail risks, and here's your 30% damaging wind risk there. Looking at the Weather Prediction Center outlook, you can see Day 2, we have a slight risk of excessive rainfall from northern Missouri into central northern Illinois, all the way into northern Indiana and southwestern Michigan, and another one extends from north central Texas all the way into southeastern Oklahoma there. So if you're in those areas, watch for some scattered flash flooding with potentially a few inches of rainfall in those areas. And going to our day 3 outlook, you can see generally marginal risk of excessive rainfall across portions of the southeastern United States to the southern Great Plains there. Nothing too concerning about that. Looking at our models, here's the HRRR here. You can see this is the 18Z run as we go into overnight Tuesday. You can see mostly no cloud cover there at all, really. And as we get to around 20, as we get to 0Z, you can see we start having some storms formed by 0-1 to 0-2Z. We have some supercells firing out there. And if we actually look at our moisture real quick, you could see we do have some pretty good dew points out there in the mid to upper 60s there. And we also do have some good instability out there, generally around 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram across a widespread area there. Next, looking at the wrap, you can see as we go overnight Tuesday, very little convection over that area. Still very little convection. You can see it's kind of more messy, but you can still see a couple of supercells out there around the 23 to 1Z time frame there. Looking at our wind shear here, if we go to near surface wind shear, you can see generally moving to the south, generally around probably 40 to 50 knots there. If we go to the 500 millibar level, if that will load, you can see generally more around 60 knots, 50 to 60 knots there, and it's more localized across central Illinois there, north central Illinois. Looking at our moisture content here, you can see if that'll load, we still have some pretty good moisture, not as good as the HRRR is showing, but generally still around mid to high 60s, so around the same as the HRRR there. And going to our mean layer cape here, you can see generally around 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram there. Finally, looking at the NAM, you can see generally very low convection overnight. As we get to 21Z, as we get to 0-3Z, actually, you can see those supercells there. This only goes for every 3 hours, but you can see those couple of supercells there, maybe a little farther north of the other models. Going to near surface wind speeds here, you can see generally around 45 to 55 knots of lower level wind shear here. If we go to 500 millibars, up mid to upper level wind shear, you can see generally around 60 to 70 knots of wind shear, more confined across northern Illinois there. Going to our dew points, actually still pretty good moisture, mainly across the mid to high 60s there, across much of Illinois. And if we go to our cape, you can actually see some pretty good cape there, around 2,000 to 2,500 joules per kilogram. Anyways, if you enjoyed this weather forecast, make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn notifications for more future weather updates. And also share this video with as many people as you can, especially your friends and family in the impacted areas. And hopefully I will be able to make more weather forecasts soon, and I will likely be live for the severe weather threat tomorrow. Goodbye.